Hey y'all, and welcome back to The Ultimate Dad. We have tried to push this off to get some warm weather, but winter is upon us and it doesn't look like it's going to happen anytime soon. So we're not going to waste any more time. We've got to keep moving forward with this truck. So we are going to have to just bundle up, get this thing outside, and get it clean. What's our next step, Ash?
Put some degreaser in the stand, spray it around, and clean her up.
We'll hit the pressure washer on it and pull it right back in and let her sit, and then we're going to get prepped for priming and painting. We are about to get started on getting this frame cleaned up, but let me give you a few little sneak peeks on what we got going on right here. So we finally got the old transmission on the stand. This isn't... Okay, first off, in the previous video, I did say that I was originally going to just build this transmission mount hanger, but honestly, I found them on Amazon for about $49, and I'm not going to make that for 50 bucks. What's your time worth? So I bought that. I thought I bought the one that actually bolted to the engine stand so you could hang this from your engine, but I didn't. I got this one, which it's okay. I do need to put a butcher block top on the top of this toolbox and then like remount it because yeah, it's holding, but it's flexing quite a bit. But inside of our Turbo 350, after we kind of cracked the pan open on it, I was really surprised at actually how clean everything was. Here's the pan. There's a few, the bolts obviously weren't in it. There's a few little pieces of, they're not solid. Like it comes apart. So it's obviously it's clutch material. But what's important is there wasn't a whole lot of it in there. So we're going to clean that up. And but it doesn't matter what was in the pan. This thing's going to get all new clutches and rebuild anyway. And we're going to do some modifications. Now, if you're curious to what are we going to paint this frame with, we are going to be using a single stage prism paint. And wait until you see this color, because you're probably thinking it's going to be black, but it is not black. Look at that. Ain't that just beautiful? This is a blue. That's about a half a gallon. This stuff mixes, let's see, what did it mix? It mixes 3 to 1. So if you have a half a gallon of the paint, you're going to have 1 whole quart of hardener. So this total will make 3/4 of a gallon. But that paint blue is just very beautiful color. The name of this color is RC Blue. Now, I don't know what that means. It just means it's RC Blue. I'm guessing, I could be wrong. Is it RC Cola? Is that the same color blue that RC Cola uses? I don't know. It doesn't really matter. That's the color we picked out. And I think it's going to look fantastic on this truck. And when we get to the body and we start painting the cab and the fenders and the bed and all that other stuff, you'll then understand why this frame is going to be blue.
Is this not awesome or what? When your kids want to help you, let them help you. He's experimenting. They both do it. A lot of times they got little things they're trying to do, and I see them messing around with different tools. They're experimenting. Don't crush that experiment. Let them have after it. But while he's washing that thing up, I'm going to come back in here and put my hands in front of that.
Now we do want to take about 1 second from a word from our sponsor. Well, this all goes part of the old saying that says, built not bought. There's several times I wish I'd have just bought something I could have climbed in and just took off in, but it takes a lot of the fun out of the builds like this. We are washed up as far as we can go, so we're going to get this thing pushed back into the garage, let this thing start drying out. We got it about 80 degrees in here, and we're just going to leave it sitting here and bake. After washing decades of trash out of this frame, I think it's about as clean as what it was the day that it left in 1991. So the next step is going to be getting this thing masked up. We're going to get it jacked up as high as it'll go, get the wheels off of it, and we're going to lay some stuff over the rear end just so we don't want any overspray on the springs and the rear end. We're going to paint those black. Again, this frame is going to be RC Blue, which is a single stage. It is a catalyst paint, but it's an ultra hard single stage paint. And from there, we're going to prime it, paint it, and ship it. Now, if you're wondering why all the front end pieces are still on there, that's because that stuff's going to get replaced later down the road. Yeah, I'm going to paint the tie rod ends, I'm going to paint the steering box, the upper control arms, all that stuff. But you know what? It's okay. Later down the road, we're going to switch this thing over to tubular control arms and all that, which those are going to come fresh, powder-coated black, and everything's real nice. For now, this is going to be just fine for what we're looking for. So let's get after this thing. Now that we have this frame prepped on jack stands, wheels off, everything masked, we got this frame clean. We did wipe it down with some Prep-All, and now we're going to start the primer process. Now, out of all the guns that I used, I chose to use my Kiwami, and the reason I did is because it's just small. It's compact. It doesn't have a real wide spray pattern. And even though it's a 1.2 tip, which is a little small for primer, we're just going to crank up the air a little bit and just shove it on through. So. Well, what do you think? I think it came out fantastic. We got this whole frame covered, inside, outside, underneath, overneath, everything that we needed. We was able to get covered, and we did it in a little over 2 quarts of paint. So let me get you a close-up in here, see what we was able to accomplish. Our notch looked fantastic. We went ahead before we even sprayed. We taped off all our studs. All that stuff that you're going to have to run bolts through, just put a little piece of tape over it. It is really going to help you with the assembly process. We are changing these shocks out, but I went ahead and taped it up anyways, just so I didn't have problems getting those nuts off to get the old ones back out. The frame on this truck is in great shape. And you know, here's the thing. There was zero rust on this truck, but what we just did will preserve this thing for years to come, and it will definitely have stopped whatever might have been starting somewhere. Now, the only where this goes into a full box frame up here, obviously you can't really get down in there. Basically, just kind of turn the gun from a fan to a little bit more of a point and just kind of send it down in there. You don't really know what all you're covering, but anything you get in there is better than probably what's in there now. And I will mention too, whenever I washed this thing out, man, there was a lot of junk came out of these rails on both sides here. Well, our primer's set up, it's cured, it's clean, and today is a great day because it is paint day. And look at this. I know I showed you once, but I'm telling you what, this color is just absolutely just popping. RC Blue. Whoever created that color, you nailed it. And I touched on it on the past, but if you're just now catching up to what we got going on here with this truck, we're going to go through and we're going to make sure on our mixing cups that we can identify. Let's see if this will show up. Well, we're going to identify our 3-to-1 block. So what we'll do is we'll come up, you know, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is just for the amount of desired paint. But if we're looking for a full cup, which we are looking for, we're going to bring our color up to the 5, and then we're going to bring our hardener right up here to the next 5. That gives us a 3-to-1 ratio. So let's get mixing. now I plan on putting on the PPE. I'm going to get to that in just a second. But when you got this brand new color that I've never sprayed before, we got to do just a little sample to show you what it looks like before we really start digging in. And of course, we're going to start with the bottom of this thing and then work our way up. All right, RC Blue. See what she looks like. Oh, man. I got to tell you, I love it already. That is incredible. What a blue. That is just insane how much that pops, and I cannot wait to see that in the sunlight. Now, I get it. You're not going to see a whole lot of this frame when this truck's assembled, but what you will see is going to matter. And especially with what I got planned for the body on this thing, with this slick blue Smurf colored RC Blue frame underneath it, it is going to look wild, and I promise. But for now, let's just calm down, pump the brakes. Let's get our respirator on, get some ventilation going on in here so we can really tear after it. Tell you what, that stuff is strong. Even with the respirator, I had to step outside to get some atmosphere in the old breathe bags. It is plumy in there. Now, I will admit that I didn't have it quite as ventilated as what I normally do when I'm painting, and I should have known better, but I'll just go ahead and eat a quart of it while I'm at it. We're going to give that a minute for that plume to settle down, but I think we got full coverage. I got just enough mixed up that if I need some touch-up spots, we'll be able to do that, but I'm excited to see how this turns out. Well, we're wrapped up with this frame paint job, and what do you think? I think it came out great. I still can't wait to see this thing in the direct sunlight, which we're going to be doing as soon as we get a weekend where it's not raining or snowing or doing something kind of crazy. Even in here in North Carolina, it's been pretty wild lately. But this frame, I got to tell you, let me pan you around here. It just looks like it was dipped. I couldn't be more happy with the way it turned out. Well, guys, this is going to wrap up this episode on this frame paint job. And I want to thank you for watching and tuning in. And hopefully there's a little tip or trick that can kind of help motivate you and string you along on your project as well. What are we going to do on this thing while this is curing? Because this Prism paint does take a little while. It stays soft for a little while. It doesn't flash cure being hard in just 1 or 2 days. It takes a little bit of time. So we're going to turn the heaters on and just let it bake. But in the meantime, we are going to get crack-a-lackin' on our Turbo 350. Yep, we got to get this thing broke down, get this thing tore apart and inspected, and we're going to kind of make the list of what we're going to need to do from there, which is basically going to be just a standard rebuild kit, some few shade tree upgrades, and probably a heavy-duty sprag for this thing, which is a common and known weak point. So, with that being said, we will see you on the next episode.